Real life drama that took these people by storm, and by these people, I mean you, because these are your stories. First story wants to be left anonymous. Growing up, I had a lot going on in my life. My mom had a lot of childhood trauma that spilled over into my life. She was in and out of mental hospitals. My dad tried his best to get her help, and in her eyes, he became the enemy. When I was about 10, I saw him sitting on his bed bawling his eyes out because once again, he had to admit her into a mental hospital. There are many stories in between all of this, and I may share later, but this is the one I want to share. About 4 years ago, I got a message from someone that said we had a match on Ancestry DNA. I thought it was going to say I was a cousin or something like that because my mom had 9 brothers and sisters and I didn't know all of them. My dad was an only child, so other than him having an unknown sibling, I had no idea how else we would have matched. So this person explained that we matched as half siblings linked by our dad. I was floored. At that time, this person contacted me. I was 56 years old and I never questioned who my parents were. Both my mom and dad are deceased, so I couldn't go to them. I called my mom's sister to see if she could help with any information on my father. She said she does remember the name and told me the story of my mom running off to New York with a man by that name a month after my mom and dad had gotten married. Like dad that she grew up with as dad, she wrote in brackets. She stayed a month and then moved back to my grandma's house. My dad went and begged my mom to come back to him, and she did, and here we are. But my aunt said she didn't think she got pregnant while in New York because she would have told her. She lied to her sister. So this person ended up being my half-brother. Then I also found out I have 2 half-sisters. We have been in contact and it ends up that my brother lives 15 minutes from me and we talk often. That's crazy. The sisters knew about me, but not my brother. So after my father, in quotations, being the biological father, but not the man that she knows as father. So after my father was with my mom, he went on to marry and had the 2 girls. They told me I should be happy that I never had to grow up with him because he was not a good man. According to them, he was an abuser and an alcoholic and substance addict. They didn't seem to want contact. He went on to marry a much younger woman, and when she became pregnant, they gave the baby up because they were not in a good place to raise a baby. That was my brother. I'm thankful that he was raised by a great family. He said at 15, our father contacted him. Our father and his mom said they would answer any questions that he had. He said all he wanted to know is if he had siblings, and they said no. So when he decided to do the ancestry thing because he was adopted, he was also very surprised. So with all of this, I have many times in my life I flashed back to, and it answered so many small things that seemed weird. My grandmother was not a friendly person. Now I know why. But my saving grace was my great aunt that spoiled me rotten. She was my dad's aunt and she made me feel very special. I found out everyone knew that my dad was not my dad other than my brother that I grew up with. Even my best friends knew, but her mom told her when she was young not to say anything because it would make me sad. I had a friend that lived with my family for a month before we moved into our first apartment together. My mom found out she had the same last name as my biological father. I remembered her interrogating her, trying to find out if she knew someone by that name or if she had an uncle. She really didn't know. My mom had said that she dated a guy by that name. Your father. Biological father. Now I know why. But come to find out, my friend did have an uncle by that name, and we are actually cousins. This is insane. We had just laughed it off as one of my mom's delusions at the time. I had lost contact with her over the years. I found her again on my new brother's Facebook friends. I asked him how he knew her, and he said that she is our cousin. Wow. I have to say that my dad never made me feel like anything but his daughter. I am thankful that I saw him the day before he passed. It was Father's Day. When I was leaving, he said, "I don't care what anybody says, you will always be my girl." That could make me cry, no joke. That is a tearjerker. Like, I just got goosebumps. I didn't understand what he meant by that, but I didn't think anything about it. The next day, he passed by a heart attack and diabetic complications. When I found out he wasn't my dad, that statement meant the world to me. I respected him even more that he never made me feel anything other than I was his girl. I'm glad I found out now at this point in my life because I was able to handle it. I don't know what it would have done to me if I found out earlier in my crazy teen years. My new brother and I keep in touch. We get together when we can because we are both busy, but I'm happy to have him as part of my family. What a crazy story. Insane. Can you imagine one day a Facebook message, hey, you came up in my ancestry DNA results? Even as like a cousin would be like, no way, that's insane. Oh man. That's really sad though. That must be really hard to process all of that. Especially once your parents are gone and you're just like, oh, biologically, that wasn't my father. Like that's such a strange thing to process. I'm so happy for you though, that you have a happy ending and that, you still cherish your father as your father. I wonder, so do you think he knew? He must have known, right? Based off his final statement? Anyways, next story was submitted by Amanda. I looked like his next victim. I, 28 female, was in my first year as a physical therapist at a large hospital chain. Though I was inside of the hospital, I worked in a small outpatient clinic where patients came to me for appointments and left. As the newest therapist, I was given the late shift from 9 to 7:30 that catered to those who needed therapy and also had to work during the day. We were usually pretty slow in the evening since most of our patients were retired seniors, so I was alone after 5. Like any normal day, I had a new evaluation come in for shoulder pain. Pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. He was a middle-aged man, good-looking, well-educated, and very polite. I tried to assign him to my assistant, but he refused to be treated by him, stating that he would only work with me. That was fine. The way you're leading this story, it's giving serial killer. Is that what we're about to find out? Y'all, have you guys been watching the Ed Gein story on Netflix?
I'll do as I rightly please, Mother.
I knew vaguely about the real story. Finding out all these details, horrific. Anyways, is this an Ed Gein? He wanted later treatment times anyways, and my assistant went home before I did. Our first few weeks of treatments go by. He was so kind and charismatic. I started to look forward to meeting him as we shared a lot of the same interests. He even started waiting for me to lock up and walking out to my car in the parking garage with me. Maybe I'm panicking.
I need to calm down.
Maybe I'm just paranoid. I hated the parking garage, especially when it was dark, so I welcomed him walking me to my car. At some point in our treatments, though, I noticed a shift in him. Our light small talk turned more to flirty, from him anyways. I was happily married and not flirting back, but as any woman knows, some men can confuse our niceness with flirtation. He started making advances and asking me out to drink after therapy. I politely declined and tried to circle back to talking about his therapy. He seemed agitated and started to become less and less compliant with the exercises. He stopped talking as much as well. I could tell the mood had shifted. Today, I decided it would be best not to walk with him to my car. I didn't tell him this at first, so he went out of the clinic and waited by the elevator for me to lock up. I wasn't sure what to do, and I couldn't call my partner as they were out of town on business. So I opened the door from my clinic to the hall where he was, and I told him I had paperwork to catch up on and that I would just see him at my next appointment with him. He looked at me with such anger in his eyes and started walking faster and faster back to the door I was at. Luckily, I was able to close the door and flip the lock before he made it to the door. Ugh. Ooh, I could just picture that. Ooh. Serial killer. Of course, this door is essentially a giant window and he could see me on the other side, freaking out, but trying my best to conceal it. He told me to let him inside and he could wait with me while I finished my notes. I said thank you, but I had a lot to do. He insisted and I declined again. He pushed once again on the door and when it didn't open, quickly turned turned around angrily and went back to the elevator. I was shaking and terrified that he would come back, so I went to the private offices and I locked that door as well. I grabbed a large dowel rod that wouldn't do much to him, but at least it made me feel a little bit better to have. At this point, I knew I couldn't leave as he knows where I park and what car I drive and could be waiting for me. I called security for the hospital, and luckily one of the guards was doing his rounds close by and said he would walk me to my car. We head out to my car and I see my patient parked a few spots down from me inside of his car. When he sees me and the guard walking towards my car, he backs up and he pulls away. I thank the guard and I get into my car. I drove a few loops before going home to make sure I wasn't being followed. Luckily, I wasn't. The next day, I went to my boss and I told her what had happened. She accuses me of being paranoid and says I need to continue to treat him. I ask her about having another therapist stay late with me, and she says that she will ask a few people, but not to get my hopes up as nobody likes working the late shift. I work my normal day, dreading the next day, knowing that is when I am scheduled to see him again. That evening, I called my brother and I asked him to come to the clinic when this patient was supposed to be here and wait in the waiting room. Thankfully, he agrees. The next day, it is time for this patient to come in and no one is there. This patient was always early to his appointment, so I was very surprised. 15 minutes turns to 30 and he is still not there. I decided I waited long enough and I locked up and myself and my brother left. The weekend comes and goes, and by Monday, I am back at work. I had no messages from this patient about the no-show and had no plans to reach out to him despite that being protocol. Lunchtime rolls around and I decide to go to the hospital cafeteria to eat. There are TVs scattered all around and I sit in front of one that's playing the local news. I occasionally look up at it from my phone, and one of the times I do, I see a familiar face. My patient. He was in handcuffs being walked out of his house. The sound wasn't on, but I read his name being arrested under suspicion of multiple murders. No, that's not even funny. Here I was joking about being a serial killer, but like, no, actually is one. My jaw dropped to the floor. Now the TV had my full attention as pictures of young, white, blonde women popped up on the screen as his apparent victims. Young, blonde, white women looking very similar to myself. It took me a while to fully grasp what I had just seen. I went to my manager and I told her what I had seen. Apparently not believing me, she searched his name on Google, and sure enough, there were multiple articles and news clips talking about his arrest. She apologized to me for not listening when I expressed my concerns and told me that I could leave early if I needed. Oh, now you're sorry. I literally could have been his next victim. I stayed the rest of my shift, but told her I wouldn't work late anymore by myself. By the next shift, I had one of the therapy aides assigned to stay with me until we closed. I ended up transferring to a different part of the hospital that had better hours after a few months, but I can't help but wonder what would have happened if I had gone to get drinks with him, or if I had continued walking to my car with him. I mean, I was only going to see him for a couple more weeks. So what was his plan? Was I his next target? He is still awaiting trial last I checked, and hopefully will be convicted, so he will be locked away far from anyone else. That's not even funny though. That's not even funny. Here I was cracking jokes, thinking like, ooh, okay, creepy guy. No, on trial for actually being a possible serial killer. Terrifying. I don't think I would sleep at night. Until I knew he was locked away, I really don't think I would sleep at night, because he knows your car, your license plate. He could have been following you. Like, I would be thinking worse. Why am I putting that on your head? I'm so sorry. I forgot that this is a real story from someone on my channel who is possibly going to be in the comment section. You're gonna be fine. It's all going to be okay. Really is. I really wish I knew the name so that I could be nosy and go and watch and make sure all the updates of the trial that he is being put away. Maybe message me privately. I just want to know that you're safe. I'm not helping. I'm the wrong person to respond to this story. I'm so sorry. Let's hydrate. Drink your water. Cheers. I'm almost done. I could probably finish this all right now.
You guys, Lila's not doing too good today. She woke me up at 6 a.m. today because she was getting sicky. She's eaten though, and she's drank a lot of water today. And she was playing earlier, so I think she's doing a little better. But sleepy girl, what'd you eat off the floor that you weren't supposed to?
Next story wants to be left anonymous. Backstory, for the sake of this post, I will call the roommate Jessie and myself Talus. Ooh, that's a cool name. Talus? Never heard of that. I was a roommate with someone who literally chased me out of the house screaming and still owes me nearly $800. She never once apologized, and after nearly a year of no contact, blamed her reaction to me on her health and stress situation. She's now reaching out after us not being in contact for nearly 2 years. At the time, we had been friends for almost a full decade when she asked me to move in to help her with the rent and to do some work with her. I got there and she told me that the work wasn't going to happen, so I got a job nearby. She went on frequent trips for work, and when she got back, she would always attack me for one cleaning issue or another. I started walking on eggshells around her because I would never know what would end up setting her off. It went on like this for pretty much the whole year that I lived there. There was also one time when a mutual friend of ours came to visit. Let's call him Liam. He was visiting for a wedding and came out to hang out. I was excited to see him since it had been several years. We live in Canada. Hey. In one of the western provinces, and he lives in an eastern province. Jessie asked me to suggest something we could do, and I thought since it was so nice out, we could go to the river and go for a swim, which we ended up doing, and it was great and really refreshing. We walked down a beautiful path, and I talked to Liam while Jessie jumped in every once in a while. Later that night, after he left, she exploded on me that the only reason he was there was because of her, and that he wouldn't be coming to visit me if it wasn't for her. Okay. Jealousy? Is this a jealousy issue? She went on about how trust had been broken. I don't remember how, but we eventually did make peace and go home. One time, she got angry at me for moving stuff around in the bathroom while I was cleaning. I suggested counseling for both of us, but she would never acknowledge that she needed help. She always saw any blow up that happened as my issue to fix. She always claimed that no counselor would understand or be able to help her, and that her issues were unique to her, and that her spiritual leaders always said that she shouldn't trust anyone. She blamed a lot of her health and never owns any of her actions. She always used to tell me about how dysfunctional her parents were, as if that was a good reason for why she acts the way she acts. Another time, when she got back from a trip, she accused me of causing mold in the house. Then I was heading out of town for a work trip, and on my way out, with my suitcases in hand, she came out of her bathroom and started screaming at me that I was trying to skip out on rent. She kept screaming as I was getting in my business partner's vehicle. Girl, I'm just going on a trip. I ain't piecing out and not paying rent. When I went back to get my stuff when I was moving out, first of all, it was clear she had gone through my stuff, and she brought over all her friends to make sure she would be safe from me. Then she didn't give back my damage deposit or the remaining rent she owed from driving me out 2 weeks before the end of the month, which is almost $800. A while after that, I was talking to another mutual friend, let's call her Dallas, and she told me that Jessie was still living in the house. Almost a year later, she sent me an email, not to apologize, but to tell me I was amazing and that she was sick at the time, and that is why she treated me the way she did. Now, almost 2 years later, she's reaching out again. The start of our conversation again a few days ago, she sent me a picture of me and her cat in the living room that we shared. The cat was super cute and would often sit on my lap when we were hanging out. It was a time when we were hanging out and we had no conflict. Great picture. I'll be honest, Jessie, after your last email quite a while ago now, explaining why you treated me the way you did, I'm not sure how to respond to you reaching out again. I've spent a lot of time processing what happened between us, and while I understand you were going through a difficult time, your actions still had a significant impact on me. I recognize that you were under stress, but that doesn't justify how you treated me. I've forgiven you for my own peace of mind, but that doesn't mean it was easy for me to move past everything. I am also unsure about whether or not I want to have you in my life after that, especially considering that you still haven't apologized for chasing me out of the house we both lived in and the trauma I experienced during that time. It's clear to me, since you've sent me these messages, that you do want to be part of my life, but a lot has to be acknowledged before I even consider it. If we are to move forward, it would likely to be done slowly. Trust has to be rebuilt, and right now, I don't feel like I can trust you. I'm not saying this to push you away, but I need time and space to see whether things can be different. If you're open to taking things one step at a time, I can consider where we might go from here. I wanted to be honest with you about how I feel, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Jesse's response. Talis, it's good to be able to express that, and it's important. I'm glad you did. What I was apologizing for is that I didn't react well to your last month with me. I didn't feel wrong about my stance, but you by then seemed pretty angry with me as well. As far as how I treated you, otherwise, I'm not sure what you mean. If it was cleaning, I expect people to clean up after themselves, and I've never treated you differently that way from others that I had there. I've always done the same with others. Equal cleaning duties. It was not I, but your decision to not give full month's notice. And that is when I, at that point, was very downhill in my body. We may never agree on how the last month went down. We both may feel the other is wrong in how they handled things. I saw this, and there were a few people I felt this would encourage. I do believe in you, your strengths. You have a beautiful creativity and brilliance, and you are a kind soul. I wish you good things and all the best in your future. My response, Jesse, this isn't about the last month. It's about the entire time I spent living with you and the dynamic that developed over that year. I understand I didn't always clean to your standards, but it wasn't just about cleaning. It's how you responded, the emotional pressure, the accusations, the outbursts, the way you would talk about your family dynamic as if it excused your actions. I found myself walking on eggshells. That is not a healthy environment to live in. When I first moved in, you asked me to help with rent and do some work with you. But once I arrived, you told me there wasn't actually any work available. So I found a job nearby. Later, when you brought it up again and I reminded you what you had said, you twisted it as if I had refused the opportunity when it had never been offered in the first place. That was one of many moments where I felt gaslit and misrepresented. When you would go on your ministry trips, you would return and it felt like I was always being accused of something. Mold in the house, how I had moved things while cleaning, not cleaning to your standards. Minor things, but turned into major blow-ups. There was also a time when our friend visited. You kept making it clear he was only there because of you, as though it didn't matter and as though my connection to him didn't exist. I get that you're close, but there was no need to make such a point about it. It hurt me and made me feel erased in my own space. So I'm going to move forward a bit. I didn't leave without paying rent. I was driven out mid-month, and you never gave me the space to explain. This isn't about whether or not you believe in me or my gifts. That's kind to say, but it doesn't change what happened or how you treated me. That tells me that you still don't see what I lived through. I have forgiven you for my own peace of mind. That forgiveness wasn't a free pass. It was a choice to stop holding on to the pain. I genuinely wish you good things in your life. I mean that because despite all you did, there were some good times too, and I also think that God has great plans for you. Her response, it's probably not going to be a good one. This will be interesting to hear it, how she thinks all those things went from her perspective. Firstly, you needed a place and wanted to leave Vancouver. Regardless, I said a group of us was working on something, but I never brought you out to work. I said you could rent and there may be opportunity. You did great at cleaning as far as the allegations of emotional outburst. It was not I. If you remember when I brought up anything, you would get angry. Like there was something inside of you that needs healing, I think. Because I think you try hard to please, and when you feel anything is brought up, you take it like shame, or in your filter, the person is telling you that you are no good because of one little thing. So whatever happened in your past, I think it causes you to really sink into thinking the person is saying you are a complete bad failure, when all they're saying is, can you please clean this way? So after a lot of your outbursts, my nerves were getting fried, and with my health combined, I did start reacting. At which point you probably should have left, because I couldn't handle it. The yelling. As far as blaming the family, I never blamed anything on my family. I might have shared with you dynamics that were going on, but I never once said my reactions were because of my family. Blame them for it. It's because I'm reacting to you. I don't remember doing that. As far as business, you clearly stated you didn't think you wanted to pursue what we were doing, and that's when you began doing your own thing with the idea of local stuff, whatever it was that you planned on doing. You very clearly stated and went after your own book thing, I never cut you off. I never pressured you to do anything with me, and I never said to leave either. I do understand boundaries and I do respect yours, so I won't be sending anything further. One thing I said, I want to not leave any shame or for you to feel shame about when I said my nerves were fried. You did not fry my nerves. I already had lots happening before you came. So I just wanted to clarify what I stated. It has been nearly 2 years since all of this happened. I moved. I now live on the other side of the country, not because of that, a bunch of other unrelated reasons, and I am currently doing much better. I just wanted to tell it because, well, why not? That's actually sad though, because they always say it's a risk when you live with one of your close friends. Like becoming roommates, they say that can make or break a friendship. Family, same thing. Working with family or friends, there is always a risk there because some people can't travel together. They can't live together. You live differently. You travel differently. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, you guys. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.